Hello, I'm Susanna Cho from the Faculty of Business and Law. The topic I'm going to talk about is the impact of problem-based learning on personal growth. First of all, the aims are to explain the impact of problem-based learning, PBL approach in business curriculum, and then to suggest design steps of PBL. Then last is to illustrate the applications of PBL in different modules. First of all, I want to cite Albert Einstein. The important thing is not to stop question. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. Well, curiosity serves as a vital precursor to problem solving by sparkling a desire to explore, understand, and learn about the problem before we could come up with solutions for a problem. So let me take you through some definitions. PBL is an instructional method that initiates students' learning by creating a need to solve an authentic problem. During the problem-solving process, students construct content knowledge and develop problem-solving skills as well as self-directed learning skills, working toward a solution. And problem-solving is a process of understanding the discrepancy between current and goal states of a problem, generating and testing hypotheses for the causes of the problem, devising solutions, and executing the process to come to solutions in order to satisfy the goal state of the problem. Is it too trivial to mention all these definitions? Well, if you look at some of the highlighted keywords in red, I'll further explain them as part of the core elements for the designing of PBL curriculum. So a critical thinker, he or she uses analytical skills to assimilate and evaluate information they receive from others, and they use critical thinking to formulate and advance their response. So we as educators, very often we want to fill the learning space with critical thinking disposition, which is a general orientation focused on deep internalization of critical thinking habits. Why is PBL learning important? So it is because we should treat problem solving as a kind of natural intelligence because it's very much linked to our basic life functions, especially in organizations when we as managers could face different kinds of problems, simple or complex. Therefore, good managers who are good critical thinkers can go far. Moreover, critical thinking can be sharpened in problem-solving microprocesses, questioning the nature of problem and challenging the challenges to be tackled, conducting research and making evaluation with logic, justifying validity of premises and assumptions, and forming hypotheses, testing feasibility, and making inferences and summaries and forming arguments in order to come up with solutions and conclusions are all microprocesses that would develop our cognitive abilities. So with the PBL curriculum, then students could gradually develop to be a good problem solver, and they could even be able to pick up solving complex problem using system thinking. And more importantly, during the process of using PBL in terms of the curriculum design, students' cognitive ability in terms of motivation and volition can be activated and triggered, and they will become much more kind of familiar as a problem solver as they take up the role more often. So PBL is self-directed learning that can hone high-order thinking, such as strategic thinking and analytical thinking. It can increase learners' self-confidence as well as self-awareness. So let's look at the theory behind designing PBL curriculum. Hone 2006 come up with a 3C3R design model, which includes two categories or two classes of components. They're the core and processing components. In terms of the core components, they include context that encompasses the problem and also the kind of goals that is required for the problem solver as they take up the role as a problem solver. Contents related to the knowledge that students have to pick up in order to apply them, and therefore the connection, the third element, is how we as the educator, when we design the PBL curriculum, will have to create the connection between context and content. And all these three elements will be illustrated in the upcoming cases in slides 12 to 14. As for the processing components, they involve researching, reasoning, and reflecting, and therefore allowing students to be actively and immersing themselves in the learning processes. And Hone 2006, in another article, also defined 9 steps of PBL design. They include setting goals and objectives that can connect the context and content, and to allow them to be able to be connected, that means create the connection, the educator has to create the tasks, and therefore as we design PBL curriculum, we have to think about what tasks that could connect the context and content and make them make sense. And therefore, we need to conduct analysis of the context. What role should students pick up? What sort of problem are they trying to solve? And what goals do they need to meet? And anchor them into their assignments. Then generate the problem in a way that is clear and clarify with kind of the challenge statement, and also make it, is it a problem that you will set for them, or are they allowed a certain kind of freedom and autonomy to find a certain problem that they're interested in solving. Then we also, before we could coming up with a good curriculum, the affordance analysis means whether the problem could be solved. Is it viable to be solved in a way within the module length? In our case, is talking about 7 weeks. Then we want to allow the different elements from context to content, not only having the connection, but how also with the processing elements could have good correspondence. So between the core elements and the processing elements, they should have good correspondence connected with one another. Then we also need to look at whether students will have the time to give the best estimates of the best solutions and best outcomes. Then students should also have the opportunity to reflect. So when we are designing the PBL curriculum, we should build in what kind of reflection they should come up with. And by then with all the 8 areas of analysis given, then all the inter-supporting relations of the 3C, 3R should exist. So I also want to spend a minute on the use of technology. On online platforms, we're talking about some of the more sophisticated simulated platforms, whether we're talking about games on decision making, or in management, or stakeholder mapping. All these could be found in different online education suppliers, whether it's Harvard publishing platform, or what I'm using is actually the Edumondo platform. So you could explore that and make and enrich your module using PBL design. Another area is the whiteboarding tools, which are quite free. You can find them on Canvas or Miro. And another new development is the AI-assisted game experience, which will actually be able to help students with the research. So the latest technology could actually be making the PBL a lot more affordable and fun as well. So let's look at some of the module case illustrations. The first case is an undergraduate module, which is social entrepreneurship module that requires students to imagine that they are social entrepreneurs, and the problem is that they have to choose a social issue to address, and the goal is to address a social issue using business methods, and the assignment is to produce a social business model and business plan. So all these on the left hand side in red titles, they are the context related elements. And then with the content, we'll teach them the following areas of knowledge: creative problem solving steps, and also how to develop a social business plan, and also learn how to calculate social impact measurement. Then obviously then in the assignment, and the goal is actually to come up with the social issue, beneficiary that they will serve, and then therefore do their research and come up with the social business plan, and also do the presentation. And all these therefore becomes the core processes of researching, reflecting, and all that. And therefore the PBL learning process is could be very fun for them. And another undergraduate program module that I have designed using PBL is the sustainability entrepreneurship. And then students, they serve as individual social change maker, and they would choose a social or environmental issue to address. And the goal is to address these issues under or alongside the SDG goals, using systems thinking to derive a solution. So the assignment is to present the systems mapping and analysis and solution. So they will learn business ethics and sustainability, systems thinking, and SDG. And the processes involved is to identify the issue, present, come up with a systems mapping after research, and then come up with a social solution report in the end. And the third module is a postgraduate program that we use a simulation game, which is a platform supplied by an external supplier. And then what they have to do is, as a senior manager, or as a almost like an entrepreneur, has to run several rounds of decision making, and in order to start a smartphone business from startup and then grow the business in different markets. And so the whole problem is about doing business, growing the business over many rounds of decision making. And then the assignment is to conduct self-reflection on how they would have developed personal growth and leadership development. And the processes of learning involve learning the business diagnostics and also simulated business consulting. And the self-directed processes involve business analysis, business consulting, risk management, and self-reflection on leadership development. Then the outcome students, leadership development is evidenced through quantitative as well as the self-reflection qualitative data, and they could develop leader identity, and also they talked about how the different areas of skills, from business skills, strategic thinking, decision making, were strengthened. And student engagement was shown in attendance, formative and summative assessment efforts, verbal appreciation, and classroom discussion and presentation vibes were very good. And there's also good word of mouth between cohorts in general when I applied PBL approach. So to conclude, PBL approach creates a field or space for students to step into, to experiment another role, and with a simulated goal and role, students can stretch their imagination and competence to develop self-directed skills and abilities. And also PBL is particularly effective in developing critical thinking and other cognitive skills. Going into a new role can unlock students' motivation to lead as also to learn. So PBL is a good approach to trigger students' leadership development that aligns with the DMU strategic goal. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.